won't stop you. I'll even put in the paperwork. I just know that every man I kill, the farther away from home I feel.
Saving Private Ryan begins with 24 minutes of pure chaos. Bullets tearing through the air, soldiers screaming, and explosions shaking the ground. It felt so real that veterans in the audience had to walk out. But here's the twist. The battle on screen wasn't just shocking for viewers. It was absolute madness behind the scenes, too. From secret deals to bizarre filming tricks, here are 20 weird facts that make this war epic even more unbelievable. 1. The D-Day scene was too real for veterans. The opening D-Day invasion is one of the most intense sequences in cinema history. Spielberg used handheld cameras, slowed the frame rate, and filled the air with dirt, smoke, and explosions to mimic combat footage from 1944. Many veterans who watched the movie in theaters reported flashbacks and panic attacks, saying the scene felt like reliving the real invasion all over again. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs even set up a counseling hotline because so many World War II vets found the film overwhelming. It wasn't just entertainment, it reopened wounds. 2. Spielberg hired real amputees for brutal injuries. For the most graphic battlefield injuries, Spielberg didn't rely on CGI. Instead, he hired real amputees and fitted them with prosthetic limbs that could be blown apart with squibs during filming. When you see a soldier's leg vanish after an explosion, that was a practical effect performed with brutal authenticity. The actors playing medics often had to treat these injuries on camera, making the reactions look unscripted. Many crew members admitted that even though they knew it was fake, the sight was still shocking and hard to watch. 3. Tom Sizemore filmed under daily drug tests. Actor Tom Sizemore, who played Sergeant Horvath, was struggling with drug addiction at the time. Spielberg gave him a strict ultimatum. He would be tested for drugs every single day during production, and one failed test meant he'd be immediately fired, even if it was the final day of shooting. This kind of agreement was extremely rare in Hollywood, but Spielberg wanted to protect the film. Sizemore later admitted that this pressure kept him clean throughout filming, saying that the movie quite literally saved his career and possibly his life. 4. The opening battle alone cost $12 million. Just the first 24 minutes of the movie, the Omaha beach landing, cost around $12 million to film. That's more than many entire movies from the 1990s. The sequence took 25 days to shoot with over 1,000 extras, gallons of fake blood, and massive pyrotechnic rigs that launched dirt, debris, and body parts into the air. Spielberg treated the opening almost like a short film within the film, and the gamble paid off. The scene became one of the most famous in cinema history and set the tone for the rest of the movie. 5. Normandy was actually filmed in Ireland. Although the story is set in France, Spielberg couldn't film on the real Normandy beaches. Instead, he moved production to Ballinesker Beach in Ireland, where the Irish Army supplied 2,500 soldiers to use as extras. These soldiers played both Allied troops and German defenders, sometimes switching uniforms between takes. The Irish landscape was modified with bunkers, barbed wire, and obstacles to mimic Omaha Beach. Spielberg was so impressed with the cooperation from the Irish military that he later praised them for helping him pull off the impossible. 6. No storyboards. Spielberg wanted chaos. Normally, directors use storyboards to plan every shot, especially for large-scale battle scenes. But Spielberg chose not to storyboard the D-Day invasion. He wanted the scene to feel raw, unpredictable, and chaotic, just like real war. Camera operators were instructed to move as if they were combat photographers, dodging explosions and running with soldiers. This gave the sequence a terrifying, documentary-like feel. Spielberg himself described the shoot as controlled chaos, where even he didn't know exactly what the cameras would capture until the day was over. 7. That gritty look came from a rare film trick. One of the film's most distinctive features is its gritty, desaturated look. Cinematographer Janusz Kaminski used a rare film processing technique called bleach bypass. This skipped part of the chemical process during development, leaving the film with muted colors, crushed blacks, and a stark, high-contrast image. Spielberg said he wanted the movie to look like it was filmed in 1944, not in Hollywood. The style was so striking that other war films and even commercials copied the look, cementing Saving Private Ryan as a visual trendsetter. 8. Real World War II guns were fired for sound effects. Instead of relying on sound libraries, the sound team fired actual World War II-era rifles, pistols, and machine guns to capture authentic audio. They even recorded the echoes in open fields to mimic what soldiers would have heard in battle. The metallic clinks of bullet casings hitting the ground and the deafening cracks of machine gun fire were recreated with painstaking accuracy. The result was a soundscape so intense that audiences often said the movie left them physically exhausted. This realism was key to the movie's impact. 9. The cast suffered a harsh boot camp, except Matt Damon. Before filming, the main cast went through 10 days of military training led by former Marines. They slept in the dirt, crawled through mud, dug foxholes, and lived on military rations. The training was meant to strip away their Hollywood comfort and bond them as a unit. But here's the twist. Matt Damon was deliberately excluded. Spielberg wanted the rest of the cast to genuinely resent him when they finally met him, just like their characters resented risking everything for one soldier. That decision worked perfectly on screen. 10. The German Tiger tanks were clever fakes. The German Tiger tanks in the movie look intimidating, but real Tigers are extremely rare. Instead, the production team took Soviet T-34 tanks and disguised them with welded armor, fake wheels, and cosmetic details to look like Tigers. These fake Tigers were so convincing that most audiences never noticed the difference. Tank enthusiasts later praised the production for at least getting the scale right, since the Tiger was much larger and scarier than most German tanks, and Spielberg wanted the audience to feel that intimidation on screen. 11. Captain Miller's hand tremor had a secret meaning. One of Tom Hanks's most subtle but powerful character traits is Captain Miller's trembling hand. Spielberg added this detail to symbolize the hidden toll of leadership in war. Soldiers could look to Miller for calm and confidence, but behind the scenes, he was just as terrified and stressed as anyone else. The tremor was never explained in the film, which made it even more powerful. It was a silent reminder that even heroes are human, and that courage often means pushing forward despite fear. 12. Tom Hanks improvised the Rosebush story. When Captain Miller tells a story about his wife tending her rose bushes, audiences assumed it was a carefully scripted emotional beat. But in reality, Tom Hanks improvised the entire monologue during filming. Spielberg encouraged Hanks to add personal touches to make Miller feel more real. The improvised story gave Miller a quiet humanity that balanced the chaos of war. It's one of the moments that shows why Hanks is considered one of the greatest actors of his generation. He made it feel natural and heartfelt. 13. Why sitcom star Ted Danson suddenly shows up. Viewers were shocked when Ted Danson, best known for playing a bar owner in the sitcom Cheers, suddenly appeared in a gritty war movie as Captain Hamill. Spielberg enjoyed casting him precisely because he was so recognizable. The cameo was meant to briefly disorient audiences, almost like seeing a familiar face in an unfamiliar nightmare. While some critics felt it was distracting, others thought it added a surreal quality to the film, reminding viewers that in war, even the most ordinary people could become heroes. 14. Spielberg refused to dub the movie. Most big movies are dubbed into foreign languages, but Spielberg refused to allow it for Saving Private Ryan. He believed dubbing would break the immersion, since the actors' real voices carried the emotion and exhaustion of battle. Instead, all foreign releases had subtitles only. This was unusual for Hollywood at the time, but Spielberg insisted. Many audiences abroad agreed that the decision made the film feel more authentic, even if it meant reading subtitles during the action. It was another example of Spielberg prioritizing realism over convenience. 15. Matt Damon wasn't famous until he was. When Spielberg cast Matt Damon as Private Ryan, he was relatively unknown. But just before the movie came out, Good Will Hunting was released and became a massive hit, making Damon a star almost overnight. This unexpected timing worked in Spielberg's favor. Audiences suddenly cared about Damon, just like the soldiers in the film were expected to risk everything for him. Spielberg later admitted that the coincidence was pure luck, but it gave the story an extra emotional punch that no one could have planned. 16. Spielberg gambled his salary and won big. Instead of taking his usual directing salary, Spielberg chose to gamble on profit sharing. That meant he wouldn't be paid up front, but he would receive a percentage of the film's box office and home video sales. It was a risky move, but Spielberg was confident in the film's success. The gamble paid off big time. Saving Private Ryan earned nearly $500 million worldwide, and Spielberg made far more money than he would have with a flat fee. It was both a creative and financial victory. 17. This film invented the shaky cam war style. The film's handheld, shaky camera work was revolutionary at the time. Spielberg wanted the movie to look like it was filmed by a combat journalist under fire. This style became so influential that it's now the standard for war movies, action films, and even video games. While some viewers later complained that shaky cam was overused in other films, in Saving Private Ryan, it felt raw and real. Spielberg set a new template for how battle scenes could be shot, and it's still being copied today. 18. The Pentagon actually studied the movie. The film's realism didn't just impress moviegoers, it impressed the US military too. The Pentagon studied the film when designing new training simulations for soldiers, particularly for urban combat and amphibious landings. Some of the techniques used in military training videos were directly inspired by Spielberg's visual style. In other words, a Hollywood war film helped influence actual US Army training. Spielberg said he never expected the movie to be used this way, but it showed just how authentic his portrayal of combat really was. 19. The Cemetery Man wasn't who you thought. The movie opens with an elderly man visiting a cemetery, and many viewers assumed it was an older Captain Miller, but Spielberg confirmed that it was actually Private Ryan, visiting the grave of the man who saved him. This detail confused audiences for years, since the film never explicitly explains it. Spielberg intentionally left it ambiguous until the very end, when it becomes clear. The twist made the story even more emotional, as viewers realized they'd been seeing the story through Ryan's eyes all along. 20. World War II veterans helped edit the final cut. After filming, Spielberg invited World War II veterans to watch early cuts of the movie. Their reactions, tears, anger, and even silence helped him decide what to keep and what to trim. Some scenes were deemed too much, even for veterans who had lived through the real thing. Spielberg trusted their feedback, saying that if they felt something wasn't authentic, it wouldn't make the final cut. The veterans' input gave the film its emotional weight and cemented its reputation as the most realistic World War II movie ever made. Behind every explosion, every shaky camera shot, and every emotional moment, Saving Private Ryan was a war just to make. Spielberg risked millions, pushed his actors to their limits, and created a film so real that veterans couldn't even finish it. And these 20 secrets prove it. But here's the question. If this movie pushed realism this far, what other classic war films have even crazier stories behind the cameras? If you like this video, don't forget to watch the next one.